As old Blue Eyes used to sing, start spreading the news, because New York has a brand new coach.
Well, Greg, nice voice, but that's not news. New York does that every year.
Well, this year they might have gotten the coach that'll take them pretty far. Greetings, everybody, and welcome to ET. I'm Greg Lawless alongside Shep Messing. As always, this week we're breaking down the rest of the Eastern Conference. Chicago, DC, and New England. What do they need to do to improve on 2008? But, of course, the big news of the week, Juan Carlos Osorio named as the head coach for the New York Red Bulls.
I'll tell you what, Greg, I don't think that's a good choice. I think it's a great choice. Juan Carlos Osorio has the experience with the American collegiate player. He has Major League Soccer experience, went over to Man City, came back, did the job with Chicago. There couldn't have been a better choice for New York than this man.
Well, he's certainly done it all. He's got a huge challenge ahead of him with New York. They have lots of holes. One of the big question marks right now is Claudio Reyna. Is he coming back? Where's his head going to be? On Tuesday at the press conference, I caught up with Osorio and talked to him about Reyna.
You know, there's questions now about whether Claudio is going to be coming back. How important is it that you have Reyna in your midfield?
I think it will be very important. But I just had an experience with a great player that came to finish his career, and it's difficult. And definitely Claudio will have to make his decisions, and then I will make mine. I think there is no secret. We all know Claudio's situation. I think on the pitch, Claudio can be very influential. But we have to hear from him what he wants to do first, and then make a decision about it.
Thank you very much, Juan Carlos Osorio, new head coach for the Red Bulls.
The team Juan Carlos Osorio left, the Chicago Fire, had an up and down 2007. Not so good in the beginning, but after Osorio arrived in the Windy City, they started to pick it up. Cuauhtemoc Blanco came in. They race in the playoffs. Chicago, they have some questions in 2008, though, now, without a coach.
Well, I'll take responsibility for the worst prediction last season. I said Blanco was too old with bad knees and a bad attitude. I still think he has a bad attitude, but he showed what kind of great player he is. He had a big impact.
Well, he's certainly a competitor. And the new coach, whoever comes in, we know that they've already started to interview several people in Chicago. Whoever comes in is going to have to deal with Blanco. He's going to have to deal with that temperamentality that he has and trying to get him to be as good as he can be, because the attack force really in Chicago revolves around him. And you have guys like Chris Rolfe, Chad Barrett. These are young guys. They need him to be strong and steady in there.
There's no question. And when Blanco was frustrated, it was when he was creating, he'd deliver a good ball, and one of those players couldn't finish. That's when Blanco started to lose his temper. So those players that you mentioned, they've all have talent. They have all played well at times. They have to be more consistent. Yeah,
they have to be more consistent. And it's about time that all these young guys, Rolfe, Barrett, Justin Mapp should be mentioned in there. They've been with Chicago for a while. They are the core of this team. They need to step up and say, you know what, this is our team now. We're going to be the core. We're going to lead it into the playoffs. Now, another question mark for Chicago, though, is defensive midfielder, because Chris ARMAS, the longtime Chicago Fire player, is gone.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, right? I think they really have a vacancy as a holding midfielder. Chris ARMAS, he's gone. Not sure they have anybody else who could do that job. And guess what? I don't like their back line. So loop them all together. I think that's a big question mark.
Yeah, and whoever comes in as coach is going to have to do something. You have Wim Conde, who obviously is great. Dason Robinson, you know, he picked up his game toward the end, but there's also a question mark in the goal.
Yeah, Matt Pickens, I think, wants to ply his trade in Europe. And if he comes back to Chicago, they would have to hope that at least he's in the right, proper mindset to come back and play.
Toyota Park was rocking at the end of 2007 as Chicago moved into the playoffs. A lot of question marks still about whether they can do it again in 2008. Now, the team they beat in the playoffs was DC United. They won the Supporters' Shield in 2007, got into the playoffs upset by Chicago. And, you know, considering all the attacking firepower they have, Jaime Moreno, EMILIO, you know, Golden Boot winner. You had Christian Gomez, Fred coming out of there. What went wrong?
Inexplicable, really, to me, why over the course, the body of work during the season, I think they were the best team. But then at the end, they didn't get it done when they had to. I think they're great up front. Let's start in the attacking third of the field. EMILIO, a tremendous season, and I think he's going to do it again, and he's got a lot of support.
Now, okay, if we're going to start with the attack, you then have to look at Christian Gomez in behind, because I feel like when they went to a 4-4-2, he sort of lost a little bit of his momentum. Now there are questions whether he's going to be going to Dubai or United Arab Emirates or Saudi Arabia or wherever he's going and leaving DC, and that leaves him in the lurch for that creative player who can set up everybody.
There's no question. I think that's the biggest decision DC United has to make. Can they re-sign Christian Gomez? He's their orchestrator in the midfield. But they still have Fred with some creativity, and they have some workers in the midfield.
They do, and questions whether Josh Gross out wide is going to be able to come back and start to play. Defensively, they were thinking about bringing in Juan Sebastian Veron from Argentina. That's not going to happen. They were going to use him maybe as a defensive midfielder. I think actually defensively they're fine in the midfield. You have Ben Olsen, you have Clyde Sims. For me, they need to go and find themselves a big center back. A Wilman Conde, a Claudio Suarez guy, somebody who can step in there in the center back role and really shore up the defense.
I totally agree with you, and that's nothing against Greg Vanny, but Greg Vanny
is not a center
pure
back.
Outside back.
Exactly.
Get forward, overlap, use the left foot. He's been trying to fill a void by moving into the central part of the defense.
Exactly, and then the question after that comes in, they went and got Zach Wells to be their keeper because Troy Perkins is heading to Norway. So what are your feelings about Wells?
Yeah, I actually like that deal a lot. Troy Perkins, I was never, I think he has potential. I was never as high on him as other people are. I think Zach Wells, he's going to be a player. And Boswell, he had really lost his place in the team.
He had. Wells had never been a number one. Now it's his position to take, and that might be a huge key for DC in 2008. The New England Revolution famously made it to MLS Cup for a third year in a row and failed again, but they're still have to be considered one of the top teams in the league.
Hey, Greg, there's no question they're going to have a long off season. Again, the way they lost, having the lead.
Heartbreaking.
And letting that game slip away. But that's history. I still think they are obviously one of the best teams in the league, consistently get to the final, and I think they are really, really solid. I think they need a couple of things, but most teams would love to look like New England going into the season.
Well, the coaching situation that was rumored to be maybe in flux has changed. Steve Nicol, he's staying for sure. That's not a problem. So you start up top, you have Taylor Twellman and Pat Noonan. Adam Christman made a name for himself in 2007. These are great players in there. The question is, though, the attacking midfielder right now, because they had to bring Steve Ralston into the attacking midfielder position, out from his right position. Is he really the player you want in there?
No, I don't. And I really, that was a good adjustment,
right,
but that's not a good way to go. If you talk about one key position they need, it's that schemer, that creator in the attacking third. That's what they need.
Right, because they lost Clint Dempsey, who was that guy for them for so long, and they never really replaced him.
Go out and get a player. Find a South American player to fill that void.
Well, we do know that Steve Nicol was down in Argentina, and he identified some players that he'd like to bring in. We'll see if they can actually make that signing. Now, New England is certainly very solid in the midfield with Shauri Joseph and Jeff Lorenowitz. You have Cano Smith out wide, able to run up and down. But big spaces in the back right now. Avery John possibly going to England. Jay Heaps maybe losing a step. Obviously, Parkhurst is set right in there. But the other two, they need to find someone there.
Well, again, every team would love to be in the situation of New England.
True.
If you're looking at right now, what do they need? They need that attacking playmaker, and I think they need one or two defenders. Maybe one centrally, maybe out wide. Depends whether they want to play three in the back. But that recent goal, they're in good shape.
Well, they're scouting in Argentina and New England, scheming to get back to MLS Cup for a fourth time. Maybe the fourth time is lucky. Well, like every week, the MLS rumor mill is grinding away. We're going to start in Chicago, where the coaching carousel has taken Osorio to New York, and 4 guys have been called in and interviewed by Chicago.
Well, I think we both agree that's a plum job in Major League Soccer, and our understanding is that Frankie Klopas, Dennis Hamlet, John Spencer, and Paul Mariner all have been in there for interviews.
Well, there's some experienced players in there and some experienced coaches as well who've been around MLS, and that's exactly what I think Chicago needs right now. Now, some players need to get on the move as well. Joe Cannon in Los Angeles and Carlos Ruiz of Dallas. These are 2 players who were rumored to be swapped for each other. Trade broke down. Now, these teams don't want them. These players have to get going.
Greg, that's a very awkward position to be in, and who knows what Carlos Ruiz and Joe Cannon are thinking now. I wouldn't think anybody, even if you think your team tried to deal you, wants to leave L.A. I'd want to stay in L.A., but I'm sure Carlos Ruiz now wants to get out.
Well, most likely both those players are moving. We're not sure where yet. Another rumor has that Jared Borghetti, the great Mexican international striker, might be heading up to Kansas City or Colorado.
I love Borghetti. He's that slicing, attacking player, obviously good in the air, great on the ground. I think Major League Soccer would do well to get him someplace, wherever he goes.
I agree. He could be another Juan Pablo Angel, that type of player, up and getting all those headers. So the rumors will keep spinning around every single week. You can criticize us or email us or send us rumors of your own at extratime@mlsnet.com. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have, but join us again next week. I'll be here and Shep will be here, and we'll kick it around.